Hey everyone, and welcome back to Remember This Tech. Today I'm going to be doing an unboxing video and I'm going to be implementing this device from the unboxing onto my Orange Pi 5. What is it? It's a cooling fan and heatsink solution. I noticed a while back when doing some of my Orange Pi testing that the system got pretty toasty, even with the passive copper heat sinks that I put on the system. So in order to get max performance out of the system and reduce throttling, I bought this setup. I want to see how it performs. So part one is the unboxing, and part two is setting it up and testing the temperatures and seeing if it makes a difference as compared to the standard copper heat sinks. Let's find out what's in the box and then we'll go on from there. Come on, let's go. So I paid about $18 on Amazon for this, and it's supposed to be copper heat pipes and a cooling fan on top that hooks on the Orange Pi 5. Now the price could vary, but that's roughly the price. And I'll put a link for this in the description below the video in case you want to check it out. In the box we just have installation steps, and it's just a card. That's it. 1, 2, you flip it over, 3, 4. Could it really be that easy? Well, I guess I'm gonna find out. A random piece of styrofoam. Here's some thermal pads. I guess there's a spare in case you mess up the first one. There's 2. Look, these look like standard motherboard standoffs. And screws and nuts to go with it. And that's for the mounting. Check this out. A little mini screwdriver. How good is it? I'm sure it's good enough to get the job done, I'm sure. And here are the mounting brackets to hold down the unit. Probably to force the heatsink cooler onto the chip. Keep it that way. Here's a backplate, plexiglass backplate for the unit. That's pretty good. I mean, you need that. You don't want to rely just on the board. So this way, it almost could act like a mini case in a way, because this would be on the bottom, right? And then you'd put the stanchions through, and then put your board here, and then mount the heatsink fan. Last but not least, we have, dun dun dun, we have a mini fan, aluminum heatsink with copper pipes, right? And there you have that. Then you have the positive and negative. Will this do a better job? I hope so. I mean, I was spiking some pretty high temps and it caused thermal throttling for the Orange Pi 5. So if this does the job and keeps it a cool, steady 39, 45 Celsius, that would be awesome. So the next step in this is we're going to try to follow these instructions and see whether or not it's easy enough to mount this on the main chip or not. If it mounts this way, I guess I'm probably going to have to take off a copper heatsink. Let's get to it. According to instructions, I'm supposed to take and line up the cooler with the side here like this and like this. That's how you're supposed to mount it, with the board facing this way with the USB ports in the LAN port. We're supposed to mount it here, so I'm gonna have to take this off. It has thermal tape. Gently wiggle it, see if we can get it off with just our fingers, and then there we go. After I lightly clean this up, I will put another thermal pad on for this to connect to. So let me do a little isotropyl alcohol and clean this up, but before I do that, let's test this to see how we have good clearance. We have bad clearance here. I'm gonna have to take off the back heatsink here too. Just clean this adhesive off. Secondary heatsink from this other chip. I think we could do this. All right, according to step 1, we put it on there. Double face thermal pad. Try to get this in the center with my old eyes. That is about as centered as I can get. Now double check that this is here. I'll just move this other one back a little bit. Apparently you gotta screw in this step one before you mount it. So my initial playing around was just to see where it was seated and how it could best fit and how many heat sinks I needed to take off these small screws at first. Oh, this little screwdriver that they gave you has a magnetic tip. Very lightly magnetic. Not that great. So I taken this screwdriver of mine from my kit. If you want to check that out, I'll put it in the description below. My toolkit, because it's got much stronger magnetic tip, holds it a lot better. Attach it to the heatsink. Next screw. So if you line it up in accordance with the diagram, hopefully it can't screw it up too bad. You can only tighten these so tight, you know. All right, now that that's there, that's on, you flip it over and the direction is like this, and it's supposed to go on the system like this, and then there's the stanchions that come through the bottom and it screws into the heatsink here to the left and the right. I'll give you a quick close-up. Right in here and all four corners. There is, the reason why it looks opaque and not clear, I think, is that there's a plastic film on here. Yeah, you take it off and now it's almost clear as glass. But if it wasn't on there, it'd probably scratch, so that's why they do it. We are now almost time to mount this. You're supposed to put this on here, make sure that it lines up. Double check that it hits the thermal pad. Yes, yes. Plastic from the thermal pad, make sure you take both off, because otherwise, let's just say that plastic is not going to be a good conductor. Press this down lightly without pressing from the top of the cooler. Make sure the adhesive sticks. Take the small miniature nut, secure this on here. If you can, hand tighten it first, because the last thing you want to do is strip these little screws, right? Don't want to scratch that. Put it over here. Then just tighten them down. Don't over torque them. So what it looks like. It's on. Seems to be a good contact. And here's the bottom. The last step is to put the back plate on. Because you put these on like this, back plate will go on, screw into place. The only problem with this back plate is that if you can see here, that's the NVMe slot, and if you put on the back plate, which you certainly can and should to protect your Orange Pi's circuit bottom, now you can't get to your NVMe if it is a short NVMe, for instance like this one. If you have a full-size one, it's going to stick out the side anyway, so you don't have a problem technically. But if you have a small one like that, well, you have to take this back plate off each time, which is 4 small screws, and I suppose it's not going to kill you, but just wanted you to know that that's the case. No pun intended with the word case. And this system kind of like doubles as like a mini case, protects it, so not the top, but they have another case that goes with this. This whole contraption fits on, and this heatsink and fan sticks out the top. I do not have it yet, but perhaps I will in the near future. Again, if you're interested in this copper heatsink and fan for the Orange Pi, it's in the description below the video. So a quick look at it. If you look down and through from the side, you can see that the thermal pad is making contact with the heatsink. And you can see that I still have some of the copper heat sinks on there, small ones, for super extra cooling. Now, for this particular phase, you're gonna hook up the positive to the second one here, and the black lead here to the next one next to it, and that should be 5 volts. And this other one on the other side should be a 3 volt if you want to switch them around, but this should provide faster spinning of the fan, extra cooling if you need it. Describe it in the little cheat sheet card for installation. Next step is to load up an OS on here, get some thermals going, and show it to you and see how it works. Come on, let's go! We've got the Orange Pi cooler heatsink on. See, it's got LEDs, it changes colors. It's pretty cool. And see if we can't check out the temperatures while playing some games. Let's be right back, switch the camera around. I got Warzone 2001, and what are we going to do? We're going to monitor the temps over here. The temps before, I didn't have a cooler, I just had passive heat sinks. So let's see how bad this spikes. We'll just launch a beta campaign game because I don't want to host anything from here. I wonder if it'll run.
Structure under attack. Structure under attack. Structure attack.
Yeah, all the processors are pegged. Using 3.5 gig of my 8 gig. So, my final thoughts on this new CPU cooler and heatsink for the Orange Pi 5. It's roughly $18, $19 on Amazon. Was it worth it? Heck yeah, it was worth it. You know why? Because it dropped my temperatures almost up to 30 Celsius on average. Now, that does a couple things. Prevents thermal throttling, which means that your CPU frequencies decrease to control temperature, which means you get better performance over a longer sustained period. And also, it'll protect your CPU from damage. Now, some might say, oh, it's fine, they're meant to run that way at that temperature. But I think that this is a small price to pay to ensuring the performance and longevity of your Orange Pi 5. This definitely worth the investment in my mind. So if you're interested in it, check it out in the description link below. Thanks for watching. Remember this tech.